Hello everyone, this is Downfall Legend 826. I'm going over a game that was shown on the Hitler Rants Parodies channel. It's one of the channels that, make Downfall parodies based on the 2004 film Der Untergang. They make all these memes based on Hitler ranting and screaming at his generals. Those parodies are really funny, you should really check them out. And anyways, here's the game that Hitler played against his brother-in-law Fegelein and his number one nemesis in the parodies as well. Hitler had the white pieces and Fegelein had the black pieces. The game started with Hitler playing d3. Pawn from d2 to d3. Alright, seems like a pretty normal move. Usually I'd go for e4 or d4, but d3 seems okay. And Fegelein, with the black pieces, plays e5. Alright, and then things start going a little bit downhill for Hitler here, because he moved his bishop from c1 to e3, which is not really a good move in this case because it blocks the pawn on e2, and you normally want to develop your knights first before your bishops. But anyway, let's keep going. So Fegelein, Fegelein played from d7 to d5 his pawn. And then, Hitler played a pointless move b3, just randomly moving a pawn. So this is where things are totally going downhill from here, And then Fegelein moved his bishop from c8 to e6. And then Hitler played the knight from b1 to c3. And yeah, this is like the first big, huge mistake, because now this allows a pawn fork, which takes place. Fegelein moves his pawn to d4, forking the bishop on e3 and the knight on c3. That's why another reason why e3 was a bad place to put the bishop. So then Fegelein, is forking the two pieces, and Hitler decided to move his bishop from e3 to d2, at least save one of the pieces. So then d captures on c3, bishop captures on c3. Then bishop to d6 was played. Fegelein played that move, and then Hitler played knight to f3. Fegelein played knight to c6, so I think things are getting pretty normal here. h3, although that move is not really a good move in this case, but it's not the worst move either. Fegelein then played knight to f6. And then Hitler played a normal move, e4, which should have been played on the second move rather than playing bishop to e3. It should have been e4 instead, but anyway, he plays e4 here. Fegelein then castled, and Hitler joked, saying something like, "Oh, are you worried about your king?" or something. And then, Hitler said that to Fegelein, and Fegelein said it was part of his strategy or something like that. So then Hitler played bishop from f1 to e2. Alright, and then Fegelein moved his knight from c6 to d4. Hitler decided to capture the knight by playing knight from f3 to d4. And then pawn on e5 captured the knight on the white knight on d4. And then another mistake on white's 12th move. Hitler should have played bishop to d2 instead, but instead he played bishop to d4. And this is a trap that Fegelein sets for his opponent. Fegelein moved the bishop from d6 to b4, giving check to the white king on e1. Now, the best move would be to move your pawn from c2 to c3, but in this case, Hitler decided to, move his king out of the way. King from e1 to f1, and this is a big mistake because the bishop is now undefended on d4, and the bishop move unveiled an attack from the queen. So the queen takes the bishop from d8 to d4. Now, Otto Gunsche, Hitler's informant, said you just lost a bishop, and Hitler screamed, "I can bloody see that." And then, this is where things are getting even worse for Hitler here. He's decided to move his queen from d1 all the way to b1, which is a very big mistake. I think the best move here would have been moving his pawn on a2 to a3. Okay, so anyways, bishop to c3 was played, and the rook is going to be captured no matter what. But I think the best move here would have been just simply let him take the rook, and maybe move his pawn from a2 to a4 maybe. That would have been probably a better move, even though there's really no really good move in this situation, because it's pretty much lost as it is. Anyways, so Hitler played his pawn on f2 to f3. Not really a great move, but there's really no good move in this case, like I said before. So the bishop on c3 moves to a1, capturing it. And the white should probably not even take this bishop, but he did. So you know what's going to happen after this. Hitler captured the bishop on a1 with the queen, and then Fegelein captured the queen on a1 with the queen on d4, giving check to the white king on f1. So you know what's going to happen. Not only does he lose the queen, but he also loses the rook on h1. So the king moves to f2. Queen captures on h1. And now the position looks pretty lost for white. I mean, at this point it's resignable, but Hitler did not want to give up. He wanted to keep on going. It's like, like in the final days of World War II, where the Red Army was fighting against Hitler's very small army. I forgot the name of it. It was called the, yeah, so continuing the game, okay. So then Hitler played his pawn from h3 to h4. The queen captured it, giving check to the white king on f2. Then g3 was played to block the check. Then the queen came to h2. And then the king moved to e3. And then the queen captured on g3. King moved to d4, although I don't think this is the best move. I think a better move would have been to play king to d2, or maybe pawn to d4, even though it's already lost anyway. I mean, let's just keep going anyways. So anyways, the king moved to d4, queen moved to f2, and this forks the king, and the final piece, the final white piece, the last remaining bishop, because we don't count pawns as pieces. So the king moves to c3, and then the queen captures the bishop on e2, and yeah, this is pretty resignable. And the king moved to b2. Alright, then the rook on f8 moved to d8. Then e5 was played, even though a better move I think would have been play his pawn from c2 to c4, although it's pretty lost anyway as it is. There's really no good move at this point. So anyways, I mean, it's already a lost position. There's really nothing more to do here, but the pawn would have probably been better move the pawn on c2 to c4, because this will just lose the pawn. So the queen on e2 captures the pawn on e5, giving check to the king on b2. And the king moves to a3. Fegelein moves the pawn from c7 to c5. Hitler then moves the pawn on c2 to c4. The queen moves from e5 to a1. The white king moves from a3 to a4. The bishop on e6 moves to d7, giving check. And Hitler moves to a5, the king to a5, and then the Fegelein captures the pawn on a2 for checkmate. And yeah, that was the game Hitler played against Fegelein, although Hitler obviously made terrible moves during the game, and Fegelein had the advantage the entire time, right from Hitler's second move when he moved his bishop to e3. But I think the mistakes could easily have been avoided in this case, But yeah, that was the game. And I'll leave a link to the description for the original video, where HRP showed this video on his channel, so if you want to check that game out, I'll leave a link in the description. So thank you very much, and see you later. Downfall Legend 826 out.